Hello everybody, Assassinator here to update you on the ABK acquisition. So Tuesday, July 18th was the deadline for the acquisition, and a lot of people, including myself, thought or at least hoped that the acquisition would close. For me, it was more of just something I wanted done, but I fully feel now that Phil Spencer and his team made the best decision, which was to respect the CMA and not close over them. I mean, it's a smart business move. You want to work with them instead of making them someone who will block something later on down the line. Because obviously Xbox will continue to make acquisitions, and I highly doubt Microsoft wants to go through this every single time. So it was announced today that Microsoft and Activision Blizzard agreed on an extension. So now the merger agreement has been extended to October 18th. If the acquisition doesn't happen by October 18th, Microsoft will need to pay Activision $4.5 billion instead of the $3 billion that would have happened if they would have backed out, I guess, as of right now. But that doesn't need to be elaborated on further because this acquisition is no longer in question of will it close, it's more of when will it close. This extension is only needed so Microsoft and the CMA have time to work out remedies that they both agree upon so that the CMA can give the okay of this purchase. And October 18th probably gives them plenty of time because the CMA has stated that they want to wrap things up by the middle of August, if not sooner. So it looks like we'll still be getting more ABK acquisition news for a bit longer, up to a max of, I would say, 2 months. And to continue with the news on ABK, today, July 19th, Microsoft asked the FTC to remove the Activision case that is currently scheduled for an in-house trial on August 2nd. The FTC now has until tomorrow, July 20th, to decide whether to do so or to keep the trial date. We all know that the FTC won't win the case, but the FTC is known to just spend the taxpayers' money, left and right, and not even worry about if they're going to actually win the trial or not. Now, some things that came up between Friday and today, and Friday was the last time that I gave an update on the ABK situation, so I wanted to point some of these things out. So since Friday, July 14th, when the FTC's appeal was denied, some anti-Xbox people came out tweeting without actually thinking. I mean, they were tweeting things like PlayStation shouldn't allow Call of Duty on PlayStation so that Microsoft will lose money, and they should sign a deal with Battlefield and invest in it. I mean, let's start off with the part about Call of Duty not on PlayStation. Yes, Microsoft would lose money, but so would Sony. Microsoft can lose more money and still survive, but Sony can't do the same thing there. That's not taking into consideration that Sony executives, like all other executives, have an obligation to their investors. They can't just lose money and everyone be okay with it. Now, suggesting that PlayStation get the marketing rights for Battlefield, first, I'm pretty sure that Xbox has those rights for a couple more years. Second, Battlefield is not a replacement for Call of Duty. Battlefield was in its prime, I would say, around part 4, and since then it's slowly been going downhill. I mean, the last one was, I believe, the worst one, or at least that's how it was at launch when I first checked it out. So that wouldn't be something Sony would consider at this time. I mean, it could be a long-term thing, but as of right now, putting Battlefield only on PlayStation is not a wise choice. And it doesn't take a business major to know that. There was also another tweet stating that Sony wins because they get 30% of the revenue from PlayStation sold copies of Call of Duty, while Microsoft only gets 70%. I mean, these people are funny. I don't know how their brains work, but it seems like their brains are helping them cope by creating a positive for them no matter what. But I guess it's whatever makes them happy, right? Now on Sunday, July 16th, it was announced that Sony signed an agreement with Xbox. Now that agreement is different than the one that they offered them back in May 2022, because when it was first announced that Microsoft was going to be acquiring ABK back in May of 2022, the agreement was that Microsoft would be keeping existing Activision titles on PlayStation at least until 2027. That's not including Call of Duty, which would be on PlayStation for 10 years. Well, because Sony refused to sign that agreement back then, and I'm sure the issues Sony caused probably contributed a lot to Microsoft not being in a giving mood. So according to reports, Sony signed an agreement for Call of Duty to come to PlayStation for the next 10 years. But it doesn't look like on that agreement anything was mentioned about other ABK games. So this could be another L for Sony players if this is accurate. But it also doesn't mean that Xbox won't put some of the games on PlayStation without a contract. Now, because of Sony finally giving in and signing this agreement, I got to see a bunch of great memes that the community had created. Here's a couple of them on screen. Now with this acquisition happening, I wanted to point out what Sony and their players will get. They'll get 10 years access to Call of Duty, the same feature set as Xbox, with the same content as Xbox. This will not apply to other ABK games. Now what does everyone else get? Nintendo will get Call of Duty on their platform, making it so Nintendo only players can play the game. Call of Duty will be streamed by other streaming services. ABK devs will work in a better work environment, and some dormant ABK IPs could make a return. Also, characters from ABK IPs can show up in Xbox titles and vice versa. I'm pretty sure with the recent Call of Duty crossovers, we'll probably see Master Chief and Marcus Phoenix show up pretty soon. I mean, Master Chief's skin is already in Fortnite, Fall Guys, and most recently was added to Brawlhalla. Marcus Phoenix, I believe, is in Fortnite and Fall Guys, but I don't think that they're going to be showing up in Brawlhalla anytime soon. So we'll have to wait and see when this actually happens. Now, just to throw some salt on the wound of anti-Xbox players, I wanted to point out some facts. 70% of the revenue from Call of Duty purchases on PlayStation goes to Xbox to help fund other games. The 1 million or so PlayStation 5 owners who only play Call of Duty will only be playing an Xbox game. After next year, PlayStation owners will no longer get Call of Duty exclusive content. This year, when Sony spends their money to market Modern Warfare 3, they are marketing to make Xbox more profit. Most likely in 2024, PlayStation players will continue purchasing copies of Call of Duty for $70, while Xbox players with a Game Pass subscription will enjoy the game for a fraction of the price, or if they want, they can purchase it outright. Xbox has options. And because of this, some PlayStation players will become Xbox players. Also, the #1 selling game on PlayStation will be an Xbox game. I mean, that has to piss off the anti-Xbox players. Now, if you notice, I call them anti-Xbox players, not PlayStation players. I do that because I have plenty of friends that prefer PlayStation. I mean, I own a PlayStation 5 and play some exclusives there. PlayStation fans are not the issue, it's the ones against Xbox like it was evil. I mean, lately, they've turned into crybabies. I mean, I would use other words, but I'm trying to keep my content more PG. But I'm happy to finally get that off my chest. Now that's going to be it for this video. Wanted to just get you updated before you go back to enjoying your games. And until next time, Assassinator's out.